it's unedifying and undignified.
And that's all because of the money. I've got Zhang a big favourite in this one.
Do you?
Yeah, I do, yeah.
When did the Saudis become the determinator as to who fights who when?
Joshua was sort of forced into this contest, really.
I sent you to private school. What are you doing watching a YouTuber?
Right, listen.
Welcome to episode 63 of Talk Boxing with Simon Jordan and Spencer Oliver. Apparently, I don't know why I'm saying apparently, because you couldn't wait to tweet it, we've been nominated for another award.
Yes, and what an honour that was.
Well, it's not going to make any difference, because even if we won the award, we wouldn't get up there to go and collect it, because Pat, who's never here, would be like Usain Bolt up there first going, it's because of me, I'd like to thank all my friends and family.
Can you visualise it? There's me and you going up in our little suits, preparing the speech.
I don't have a little suit.
Pat and
6'2", I have a big
in the
suit.
back, cuddling each other, crying with happiness.
No, I'm of the mentality, and I want to help us get this award. I'm sort of Groucho Marx. I don't want to be in a member of a club that would have me as a member. So I don't care about awards. It's just the sheer pleasure of working with you and the insights and the learning that I get. And of course, all the substance and decency from Mero, and every now and again, sort of mailed in contribution from Pat.
Well, I must say, you have come a long way.
I'd like to think I have, and I'd like to think that pretty soon I'll be going a long way away from you. Right. Big week this week, not for me, because it doesn't interest me, but for lots of other people that it does. Knockout chaos. Ngannou versus Anthony Joshua. It's here. This week is now here. Your view on all this fight and what we're likely to see and experience, and what we're likely to see is because they're billing it as knockout chaos, which means they perceive that someone's getting knocked out. Mm-hmm. Where are you on that?
Yeah, I like it. Look, I think the fight goes the distance. I think Anthony Joshua, he's now, you know, through Tyson Fury in the fight that Ngannou had with Tyson Fury, Anthony Joshua now knows what he's going in with. Francis Ngannou is a dangerous guy. He's very strong. He's fearless. So he will punch when his opponent punches, and I think that's what he's done against Tyson Fury. You know, he waited. The timing was brilliant with that, but he's very, very dangerous and very heavy-handed. Joshua respects that, and I think what Anthony Joshua will do is he'll go out there and he'll look to systematically break Ngannou down. I think that's where he goes. He'll play it safe. He won't sit in the pocket too long. He'll use a lot of movement, and he'll look to drill those shots through. He could get the late stoppage, but I think I see Joshua winning widely on points.
Do you?
Yeah, I do. But Ngannou, it has to be respected. He's a dangerous guy. I think that's what we saw when he boxed Tyson Fury. Forget the fact that he's a novice, because we all know he's a novice, but he's a dangerous one.
But doesn't it, I mean, again, I keep making this point, and I don't know why I keep making it, and it doesn't seem to land on fertile ground, because I guess that ultimately people are making a lot of money out of these things, and ultimately, if people want to watch it, that's the scenario. But doesn't it say a lot about heavyweight boxing that in a conversation with a 0-1 fighter that's a novice that's been out of the sport, been out of competitive sport for 18 months, besides the fight against Tyson Fury, and has had a significant injury and rebuilt, I think, his knee from that.
Yeah. That
we're talking about this being a really serious fight, and that Anthony Joshua needs to be seriously concerned and seriously switched on. I mean, am I being a mean-spirited by saying this? What does this say about heavyweight boxing?
No, listen, you can't deny that Francis Ngannou is a decent boxer. I mean, forget the fact that he is a novice. Based upon the fact that he had the heavyweight champion of the world on his pants in the third round, and to do that, forget Tyson Fury and what sort of condition he was in going in there. He's still the heavyweight champ, and he should have dealt with Ngannou, and he should have dealt with him easily. That's how we all thought it was going to go. It turned out to be a real struggle. Yeah. And a lot of people felt Ngannou won, including myself. Right. So you have to respect that. You know, and Ngannou is a very dangerous guy that will hold his feet and he'll throw the shots and he'll go looking for the knockout. He'll go in there and, like I say, he's fearless. And that is dangerous when you're boxing someone like that punches as well as he punches. So it's a dangerous, stylistically, it's a dangerous fight for Joshua. Is it a case, Spence, that this is the one weight class where the crossover from MMA can be given a different thought process? Because we saw Floyd Mayweather pretty much carry Conor McGregor, and then do what he wanted with him at the end of the fight, right? Is it, and I heard Eddie Hearn making this point, that in the heavyweight division, because of the nature of the fact that these guys can punch, and it's one punch that takes people out in the heavyweight division more often than not, right? Is that the reasons why
this weight class rather than other weight classes that might have crossover opportunities is somewhat different, and that's why it's not so prevalent that he's not a boxer and has only fought one fight.
Yes.
It's the fact that he's in his sport, he punches, he is a striker, so he can punch, and so that's where the jeopardy is, and it's the heavyweight division that defies the conventional wisdom that these guys crossing over should get schooled by boxers, but in the heavyweight division, it's not the same.
Well, it's slightly different, isn't it? Because the heavyweight division, like you say, is like, you know, there is not as much movement. The guys throw big shots and you only take one shot and the fight is over. And Ngannou carries that punch power that he can take anybody out. But what he did show us is he has got that technical ability. He can switch orthodox southpaw. He actually outfought Tyson Fury at times in there. His boxing IQ was better, and, you know, Fury was trying to set the traps. And Ngannou was the one that actually had Fury's number as opposed to Fury having his number. So he showed that, you know, he has to command respect. And it does happen more so in the heavyweights because of the punch power of Ngannou. That makes him really dangerous.
What do you think? I mean, Ngannou now, all his Christmases have come at once, haven't they, economically? Right? He's gone in, he's in with the Saudis, he's gotten paid a decent amount of money for fighting Tyson Fury. I would imagine that's now amplified, and he's getting even more and maybe even a bigger proportion of the purse as a result of his performance in the first fight. But what does he do in this fight? I mean, he will have gone in with understanding in the Tyson Fury fight. Everyone thought that this was a matter of fact that Tyson Fury was going to do what he did. Now there's a different perspective. Now people are talking about him in a different bracket, and all the other voices are suggesting that this is a challenging fight for Anthony Joshua, irrespective of the resistance to that from me. What do you think Ngannou does in this fight?
Well, it's an interesting one because a lot of people are talking about now Anthony Joshua, you know, now
it's a different proposition, isn't it?
Now having
Joshua.
the benefit of knowing what he's going in with Francis Ngannou, whereas Tyson Fury didn't know what he was going in with. But on the flip side, what you've got with Francis Ngannou now is that he now knows he can do 10 rounds. He didn't know that before. So, you know, that will give him more confidence.
Right.
And he'll know that he can compete at that level. You know, so I think for Ngannou, and also when you've been sparring and fighting is two totally different things. So when you get into the ring for the first time, that would have been very different to any sort of sparring session Ngannou had ever done going in there. So now he's done that, he's going to perform better because he now knows what he's going into as well. Do you know what I'm saying? So what I'm saying is we could see a lot better Francis Ngannou.
Because Francis Ngannou was very different in the fight than the sparring sessions that we saw before, weren't they?
Yeah, absolutely.
So do you think that was kidology going on there?
No, I just think that he's one of those that probably performs. You know, I think that when you're on the stage, he ups his levels, and I think that that's what you saw with Francis Ngannou, because we saw the sparring sessions and you go, this is a non-event. But when he went in there, actually you think, this guy's good. Yeah, he upped his game. So, you know, I think that people feed off the pressure, and Ngannou's one of those guys. And I think now he knows what he's going into, that makes him a more dangerous proposition for Anthony Joshua. So it's an interesting fight, it really is. I think that you can't put it down to Ngannou only having one contest.
What do you think?
The way that he performed in that fight.
What do you think is in the mindset of Anthony Joshua? Because I think there is a thought process, and this is just me pulling out certain pieces of information that I've become privy to, that there is a desire to do what Fury's done and do it better.
Yeah.
Beat Wallin, beat Ngannou, right? And do it in a way that reasserts you back into the conversation as bigger, better and bolder than Tyson Fury.
Yeah.
What do you think is going on in Anthony Joshua's head about his need to win this fight and the manner in which he needs to win it?
Listen, I think it's not. I don't think that Anthony Joshua will be thinking about the way that he's going to win this fight. I think it's just about winning the fight, you know. And I think that Joshua was sort of forced into this contest really because it was put to him. It's not a contest that he would have chose. He would have gone for a different route, I believe. I think that he would have looked. Yeah, absolutely. But also, we're talking about risk and reward, and you're saying the risk outweighs the reward. Well, it don't actually, because Anthony Joshua is going to get the winner of Tyson Fury.
Yeah.
And Alexander Usyk, and that is the reward. So
can I just ask a
there.
question on that, Spence?
Yeah.
Sorry to cut across you. Determined by whom? Have we got? He's going to get the winner.
Yeah.
Of Fury versus Joshua.
Yes.
Determined by whom? Which body has determined that?
Well, we don't know. We don't know because we don't know where the titles are going to go. And we don't know what titles are still going to be. I think that what it's all about is we're going to have this undisputed fight. I don't believe that Anthony Joshua, if he boxes the winner, it won't be for the undisputed because we know that the titles
I'm just curious because
vacant.
the reason why I make that point is because I'm being quite vitriolic, because I'm suggesting that the Saudis have decided that the next fight is Fury versus Joshua, irrespective of what the sanctioning bodies might have to do or might be prepared to do for their mandatories.
Yes.
That's a strange dynamic,
so
don't you think?
I believe that, well, obviously, if Tyson Fury comes through, I believe that it would be Tyson Fury, anti-Joshua. We know the WBC would be on the line. Yeah. That is for sure. And where the other titles go, because I don't know where the mandatories are.
Will he be the mandatory?
I'm not sure if he'll be the mandatory, but...
I'm making a slightly facetious point, which is, when did the Saudis become the determinator as to who fights who when? Economically, for non-title fights, I get it.
Yeah.
But when we're seeing this Turkey Al-Sheikh turn around and say, the winner of this fight fights Tyson Fury, it made me feel slightly curious, because I would have thought there might have been other obligations, and maybe it's simply that Anthony Joshua will be the next cab off the rank. And I'm assuming Anthony will want Fury to be Usyk. He won't want to go.
Absolutely.
Even though you want to go back and deal with Usyk again.
Is that fight as attractive? Do you want to see that again? Do you want to see Anthony Joshua, Alexander Usyk again, or would you want to see Joshua versus Fury? For me, Joshua Fury is the biggest fight out there. Without a doubt, I think that's the fight that we've been great. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, would I like to see Anthony Joshua fight Alexander Usyk again? There's a part of me that would. Yeah. Because I think you're closer in the second fight, and I'd be interested to see if he can get even closer and do something about it.
Would he beat him, do you think?
I think he's got more of a chance with Ben Davison in his corner than he's had with other people. And
I think if the third fight happens, I think Joshua wins against Usyk.
I know you did. You thought that at the time. I know other people think that as well. I think that if Anthony Joshua hadn't have fought the first fight against, I know we're going off on a tangent, hadn't have fought the first fight against Usyk in the most ridiculous of fashions, and we had Angel Fernandez on talk about it the other day, then the psychological damage that he had inferred upon him that then carried into the second fight would never have been there, and he might have actually won that first fight, would have been a completely different journey. Can you make any case, go back to the Ngannou-Joshua fight, for Ngannou to win this fight? Besides, I know the specs are that he's dangerous and he can take a shot, and we've seen what he can do. But in this fight, given that everybody now knows what they're facing, and unless we're going to see an exponential improvement in Ngannou, we know what we're going to get. We think we know what we've got with Anthony Joshua now, and you guys are making a case for him having the pilot light back on again, and it's burning and he's ready to go. Can you make a case for Ngannou to win?
100%.
You can.
Yes,
really?
Absolutely. Yeah, there's an argument there to be had that if Anthony Joshua tactically gets it wrong and he gets too greedy and he stays there too long and lets the shots go, and Ngannou's great at punching when his opponent's punching. That makes him dangerous.
But that's about Anthony, isn't it? Yeah. If Anthony does the things the right way, you don't make a case for Ngannou to win this fight, do you?
Joshua has to tactically get it right. But what I'm saying is, he's got to hold that together for 10 rounds. Ngannou is dangerous, dangerous for
which he has done
rounds.
Previously.
Absolutely, but you can't not make a case for Ngannou winning the fight by KO because he's so heavy-handed. And you know that if he lands a shot, it could be lights out. He has got a chance. He's got a realistic chance.
If he were to win Ngannou, do you think the next fight for him? And I don't understand why this is being mooted, but I guess it draws attention. Would be against Wilder.
Depends on the situation. No, he would probably go in against the winner of Fury Usyk. He would probably put him in against the winner of Fury.
So let me get this right.
Yeah, I know.
It's f***ing preposterous.
I know it sounds mad,
but that's preposterous.
That's probably where it would land. That's probably where it would land, because we're talking about
all the other heavyweights in the division that must now be mandatories, must be in a position, whether it's Filip Hrgović or whoever else.
The titles will separate. The titles will become vacant, and then you'll see like Filip Hrgović boxing whoever the next contender is for the IBF, and that's how it happened. But I at the moment, it's all about money, big fights, and I think that it's sort of like a semi-final, this, isn't it? Like, you got Joshua and Ngannou. I think what they're trying to set up is obviously Tyson Fury, Anthony Joshua. That's the big fight. That's the fight that we want to see. That's the fight that's not happened.
Yeah.
That's where we're going. But
I think
the possibilities are there that Ngannou could win the fight.
I think in an ideal world, everyone would like to see Anthony Joshua fighting Tyson Fury in England, but you have to give credit to the Saudis because they're the guys that are writing the checks. And so if they're prepared to put the money up, and to some extent my observation about the Saudis calling the shots is a byproduct of the sanctioning bodies not doing their jobs. Yeah. So if the Saudis can overlay the sanctioning bodies and say, we'll tell you who fights next, then people like Mauricio Sulaiman should have a good look in the mirror and work out why that is.
Well, you look at Mauricio Sulaiman and his decisions with the WBC and not putting anyone up as a mandatory for Tyson Fury because he wanted to give Tyson Fury time to get the Undisputed on, and et cetera, et cetera. So they make up the rules anyway.
Yeah.
You know.
Moving on from Anthony and Francis Ngannou, and moving on to the fight that actually does, and with all due respect to Anthony Joshua and Francis Ngannou, I'm more interested in this fight than I am of the headline fight. And I know why they're there, which is Zhilei Zhang versus Joseph Parker.
Yeah.
Obviously, it looks like a fight that Joseph's already had in terms of fighting a Goliath, in terms of his performance against Joyce.
Yeah.
And he came up short in that fight.
Yeah.
And we were massively impressed by Joe Joyce in that fight, in terms of his ability to take everything that was thrown at him by Joseph Parker, and then he knocked him out.
Yeah.
And then we saw what happened to Joe Joyce against Zhilei Zhang. This is an intriguing fight.
Yeah.
How does Parker fight Zhang, knowing that Zhang's got quick hands and seen what he's done to Joe Joyce?
Yeah.
Get Joseph here everywhere, right? How does Parker approach this fight? Is he going to pop away and keep out of range?
Yeah, that's what he's got to do.
Right.
He can't stick with Zhilei Zhang. But as we did see with Zhang, you know, again, his timing's brilliant. What he lacks in foot movement, he makes up for in hand speed. And you know, and he's got a great boxing brain as well. We saw that in the 2 fights with Joe Joyce, and the fight against Hrgovic as well. It's a tough fight, this one, for Joseph Parker.
Yeah.
I've got Zhilei Zhang a big favourite in this one.
Do you?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
Why?
Yeah, and because I think you're going off Joseph Parker's last performance against Deontay Wilder, and yes, he did look great.
Yeah.
He looked great, but look at Deontay Wilder. Look at he was a shell of the fighter he was. So maybe Parker looked better than he actually was. So if that makes sense, what I'm saying is that who was the guy that he boxed before?
But isn't he a different? In fairness to him, Joseph Parker, isn't he a different animal since Andy Lee's got hold of him?
Absolutely.
And isn't he now prepared to let his hands go? Because he's a very talented fighter.
Yeah.
And I thought he was going to give Anthony Joshua a much more compelling fight. The referee hurt that fight at times by allowing them to get involved at times when he didn't need to get involved. But we always talk about you judge people on their last fight, and what you're doing now is you're denigrating.
No, I'm not.
You are, because you're saying Deontay Wilder was...
What I'm saying is that Joseph Parker has never... He's a classic example of not believing in his own ability, Joseph Parker, in previous fights. When you talk about the Anthony Joshua one, you see there, you're looking at him and you're thinking there's more there, but he just won't deliver. He won't commit himself. He didn't believe in himself enough. That's what Andy Lee's brought out on him. He's got that self-confidence now, and that's why he beat Deontay Wilder, because he rolled the dice and beat Wilder at his own game. So you've got to give him respect for that. You know, taking nothing away from his performance.
But he will be full of confidence and full of momentum.
He'll be full of confidence going in against Zhang. But Zhang is a dangerous guy. You can't be too greedy with Zhang.
We saw Zhang against Filip Hrgovic.
Yeah.
And we both think that he was unlucky not to win that fight. What has Parker got to do besides keep out of range? Can he knock Zhang out?
I don't think he can knock Zhang out. But
Can Zhang beat him on points?
I'll tell you the way he could beat Zhang. He needs to make Zhang work when he doesn't want to work.
Yeah.
Because as we've seen with Zhang, he's a big old lump and he can gasp. So Parker's got to be smart in what he does. Andy Lee's a great tactician, by the way, and he will recognise this. So Parker has to give him a lot of movement, make him punch when he doesn't want to punch, and try and wear him down and take him down the stretch. That's where he can win the fight inside the distance. But I see...
Can Zhang beat... I mean, is there anything that Joe Parker can take... I mean, different sizes. I know Hrgovic is a giant as well. Is there anything that he can take from Hrgovic, despite what we just said, which is we think Hrgovic lost that fight? He got the nod.
Yeah.
Right? Is there anything that Joe Parker can take from the Hrgovic performance and implement, or is it just simply he doesn't have the physical capabilities?
He needs to take Zhang down the back stretch, because I think when you look at the Hrgovic performance, like Hrgovic was getting beaten up for the first half of that contest. He'd come into his own in the last quarter of that fight, Hrgovic, because Zhang tired. You know, he started gassing out, it blew a gasket a little bit. Right. You know, and I think that's what Parker has to do. He has to take him into that second half.
Can Zhang beat him on points? Can Zhang beat Joe Parker on points?
Yes.
He can?
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
It's unlikely that Joe Parker can knock Zhang out.
Yeah, I don't see... I think that...
Joe Parker's route to victory is points.
Parker can beat, But
Zhang can do both.
Yeah, I believe so.
So so by that logic, you are...
I'm saying that I'd fancy, Zhang to win that fight.
And where does it lead to these two fighters? I mean, ultimately, Zhang was the mandatory for the WBO, isn't he?
Yeah.
Which is the position he took off from Joe Joyce, right?
Yeah.
Which is why Joe Joyce fought him again, because he needed to get back that mandatory position.
Yeah.
Which is why he made the logic of spinning the wheel to have a go at him again. Where does the winner of this fight likely go? Into the ether? Into the holding pattern while Fury and everyone else get their act together?
Listen, it's into the pack. I mean, look, we've got that. you've got that pack of fighters that are fighting out there at the moment, the heavyweights, that select few of heavyweights that are fighting out there at the moment, and I see them all just boxing each other, and that's all because of the money that Saudi Arabia is investing in them. But we are getting the fights we want to see, because you would not see these fights because they'd all be waiting for their chance for the shot. But now I believe that we're going to get the fighters in there, the best versus the best, whether the title's on the line or not. And I think that's what we've got from Saudi Arabia, and that's with that investment, that's what we're getting.
Did I see that snivelling weasel Derek Chisora on with you the other day, talking about fighting again? And I don't know how. Did he have the audacity?
I think he was slagging you off.
Did he have the audacity to ask you for a fee? Doesn't he owe us money?
He does. I believe he owes me 100 quid and you 500 quid.
Yeah,
am I right?
No chance of us paying. Did you defend me in some of the observations?
No, I didn't defend you at all. No.
Well, so next time when you and Adam Catchell get yourself in the you cannot rely on me to be defensive.
Listen,
I'll be weighing in. I'll be with Frank Warren going, yeah, Adam Catchell is a weasel.
You saw the interview.
And I'll be going, Spencer Oliver, yeah, Conor, he did say that.
You saw the interview, and it was a very rare interview with Derek Chisora, where he was being very pleasant. He was being very pleasant. He was out there in his smart car, smoking a cigar, being very pleasant, and I thought, let him have his moment.
Right.
Yeah, all right, he's slagging Simon off, but that's fine. We'll let that go.
Oh, fine. Thanks for that. Good fight coming up. I mean, I'm not suggesting that the fights we haven't talked about are not good fights, but I really like this fight, and I really like this fighter, Nick Ball versus Ray Vargas. Nick Ball is like an industry secret.
Yeah.
You know, this is a kid that's had 19 fights, and I think 80% of his last 80% of his last 14 fights have been stoppages.
Yeah.
His first 5 fights, all points. He suddenly, when the rounds have got longer, the fights have got longer, his knockout ratio has gone up. He's fighting against a former bantamweight champion, the current featherweight champion, someone who just lost at super featherweights. Yeah. Tell us about Nick Ball.
Listen, Nick Ball is a little wrecking machine. I mean, it was a coming of age fight for him last time out against Isaac Dogba. That was a hard fight to come through, and he had to come through some sticky moments there. But I think it was, like I said, it was a coming of age fight for him, and it was, it was Nick Ball announcing
why is he not? I mean, is it the weight class that's making him travel beneath the radar for certain parts of the boxing world, whether it be the casual audience or the broadcasters?
No, I don't think so. I mean, look, his style is TV friendly. Yeah. You know, you look at him and he's very aggressive. Right now, you know, he's got a good knockout ratio. What's he had? 11 knockouts out of his 19 wins or something?
Well, the point is, he's actually had 11 out of his last 14 fights. Right. So in the last 14 fights, he's got like an 80% knockout ratio. The first 5 that he fought were all points decisions, and that might be because of the again, as I made at the beginning of this conversation, the amount of rounds that were consisting of these fights.
Look, it's going in against Vargas. Vargas is a tough fighter. You know, like you said there, he's only been beaten once. He's very, very tough. He
beat Gavin McDonald, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. Yeah,
down at bantamweight, didn't he?
Yeah, he's a very good fighter, and that's a tough fight for Nick Ball for the WBC.
What do you think? I mean,
I think it's a winnable fight.
Is it the right time for him to go in there?
I think it's a winnable fight because I like Nick Ball. Like, he goes through the levels. You know, he's very explosive. He's got a good engine, and I think it will be a very close fight. But I think the Nick Ball wins it, and then we could see him in against Ray Ford.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you, because Eddie Hearn is talking about this 5v5, Queensberry versus Matchroom's 5v5 against Ray Ford. Yeah. And
Nick Ball wins that, by the way.
Does he?
Yeah. I think he'd be too strong, too explosive for Ray Ford. Ford come through a tough fight. I think he got a knockout in the last 7 seconds or so. Right. But you know, you looked at that fight and you go, he looked vulnerable at times there, Ford. Yes, he's very slick and he's a nice boxer, puts the shots together well. But there is an air of vulnerability about him at times, and I think that Nick Ball will exploit that.
So so you think Nick will beat Ray Vargas? And then subsequently, as a result of beating Ray Vargas,
he becomes WBC, WBA champion.
He then fights Ray Ford and beats him too.
Yeah.
So does that mean that we've got another star on our hands?
Absolutely. I mean, look, you've seen Nick Ball. He's a lovely kid. He's gone under the radar a lot. And like you say, you ask that question, you go, how has no one really, apart from a hardcore boxing fan, why is, you know, his style is TV friendly, you know, and he's got a good personality. Why is this kid not a star already? But I think that, you know, them titles will bring that out, and I think that we'll be seeing a lot more of Nick Ball, definitely.
Yeah, looking forward to it. Big news over the last 24 hours regarding Dillian Whyte, which I'm personally pleased about. I mean, I know that Dillian has travelled with controversy previously, which made this all the more believable when it happened, right? Obviously, he got himself in a situation before the Joshua fight where he tested positive for a particular substance and has now spent X amount, 8 months, gone beneath the radar, unlike other people did. when they failed drugs tests, and managed a situation, and has now seemingly got himself in a situation. Do we know? I'm sorry to ask you a question, but neither of us might know the answer. Do we know who's cleared him?
No, it was. I don't know who's cleared him.
But it's generally accepted that he's now cleared.
Yeah, because he's got his American license, and I think it's now been cleared. It was contamination of some supplements that he didn't put down in his testing, basically.
But where does that fall into the territory of strict liability then? Because ultimately, it's kind of, if you can account for it. You still have to suffer some consequences. I think they had to test loads
of stuff. He said he was testing stuff, even like toothpaste, to see where this stuff had come from, you know. But he done it the right way, Simon. That's how it should have been done, right? So, you know, we talk about this Conor Benn situation and the way that it's been handled and the way it's been dealt with, and people are saying, why is it, you know, why has it gone so public? You know, why is it like a witch hunt on Conor? No, it's because of the way that it was dealt with. Dillian Whyte just done it. He failed the tests. He took, you know, his legal team went underground and just went quiet.
And everyone else kept their trap shut as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It's an unfortunate one for him, isn't it?
I'm pleased, by the way, that he's cleared that.
So am I. And the question would be, he's taken 8 months to do it, and you wonder if these things, it'd be nice if these things could be streamlined and done quicker, because everyone's very quick to judge. And, you know, we live in a society where you're guilty until proven innocent, rather than the other way around. And because of the history of previous failed situations and controversies with the Oscar Rivas fight and stuff of that nature, that ultimately he gets himself in a situation where he was guilty in most people's minds. So it's nice to see him effectively redeem himself. So the question now abounds, where he's missed a big payday with Anthony Joshua, right? There was arguments about how much money he got paid for the Fury fight, and Frank makes a good point about where he was in the food chain and what you do and don't get, right? He got paid decent dough, but not the dough that he wanted, but notwithstanding, it's still potentially life-changing dough. He would have got paid decent dough for fighting Anthony Joshua. Where is he now? And he'll do what he does. If he wants to sue this company and he's got a case for doing it, then he'll do it.
Well, that's what I believe, that he'll be trying to claim for damages now.
And that's
absolutely.
And he'll either have a case or he won't have a case, right? But where is he now in the boxing world in terms of the opportunities? Because, you know, Dillian Whyte is an appealing fighter. He comes to fight. He was outclassed by Tyson Fury, so we know that at that level he's struggling. The fight with Joshua had intrigue because of the bad blood and the history and the fact that he straightened Joshua in the first fight, didn't he? And created a feeling that if he'd have been fitter and more experienced, he might have dealt with Joshua in that fight. Where is Dillian now? Is he in the Daniel Dubois sort of territory? Is that a fight you could see happening?
Listen, there is definitely a place for Dillian Whyte out
Absolutely.
there. Like, there's some big fighters out there for him, like Daniel Dubois there that you mentioned there. You'd like to see that. You'd like to see Dillian Whyte in with Joseph Parker again. That's a good fight. The first one was an absolute barnstormer.
Or Joyce.
Or Joe Joyce. Yeah, I mean, there's loads of fights out there for him. And look, he's been inactive since, when was it? November 2022 was his last fight. And now he's had this problem, so it's kept him out, you know, for another year or so. So he needs to get a move on. You know, he needs to go straight. He can't go straight back into one of those big fights, though. He needs to get, you know, he needs to go out there.
Get a tune-up fight.
Absolutely, get a little tune-up fight, and then you can see him in the mix out there. You know, there is definitely a place for Dillian Whyte. Stylistically, you know, he goes in with any of those heavyweights. You know, I'd like to see him in there with Filip Hrgovic, is another great fight as well. There's a number of good fights out there for Dillian Whyte, and he deserves that as well.
And he get paid.
He deserves it from what he's just been through. And I'm glad that he's cleared his name. And he's done it the way he's done it.
So am I. You know, and hopefully he gets an opportunity to have some decent fights and make some decent money and recover some of the ground that he's lost. Whilst I'd rather shut my willy in a car door than ask this question, I'm going to ask it because the producers put it on a schedule.
I've just got a really bad vision. They shouldn't have done that.
Did you watch Jake Paul at the weekend?
I did. I didn't watch it at the weekend, actually. I watched it on the way in today.
You watched it on the toilet?
I was actually scared that you was going to ask me this question.
Yeah, because I was desperate to ask it.
Don't really want to spend too much time on it because the opponent was appalling. Forget his record, he was appalling. And it was... What was it? Did we learn anything? Did we learn anything from it?
Well, the little called out Canelo now, isn't he?
Yeah, but that is, like, ridiculous. That is ridiculous. Like, know your place. Look, all right, he's done well to do what he's doing, and he's put himself in that position. Now you go, you respect that. Actually, he's come out of that YouTuber thing, and you know he's boxing at some sort of level. But don't start calling out Canelos and stuff like that. It's like that's disrespectful. That is. You know, I get what he does, and I get that he's creating noise.
Him and his brother are smart kids.
Very smart.
And they've got themselves into a situation where they've made a ton of money in the place that they're in, and fair play to them. Do you think there's any indication that this space, the YouTuber boxing space, is slowing down a little bit?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, look, Misfits is doing their thing with the YouTuber boxing, you know, with KSI and whatnot, but I think the only one that's going to continue doing it, obviously, is Jake Paul. He's the only one that's really got the bug. You know, the others were doing it just to nick a little bit of money, and I think KSI was doing the same as that as well, you know. But yeah, Jake Paul's the only one that's sort of like doing it for the career.
Fascinating to me because my 16-year-old daughter was raving on about KSI the other day and how she gets really upset when he doesn't win fights. And I'm like, what? I sent you to private school. What are you doing watching the YouTuber?
Right, listen.
Up for adoption, you
That's
go.
the world that we're living in. I mean, look, what was the numbers? We done a watch-along. When KSI boxed Tommy Fury, we had a watch-along. We had 2.2 million people watching us commentate on the fight. I mean, the numbers were insane. When you look at, if you look at an Anthony Joshua fight, what was the last Anthony Joshua fight? I think 160,000 watching us. The numbers are like...
It's unarguable, isn't it?
Yeah, the numbers are insane.
You're doing a watch-along on Friday, aren't you?
Yes, we are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not doing it with you.
Why not?
Because I don't want to.
But you have
because
been asked.
I'm genuine.
I know your name come up in conversation. I quickly...
No, I don't want to do it. I've got to be honest with you. I can't say one thing. I have no interest in this fight.
How can you not have interest in this fight, though? Like, surely there is interest in this fight.
I understand why everyone else is interested in it. I know everyone's going to say I'm a miserable bastard, but I just don't think there's... I think it's unedifying and undignified. And I think that the heavyweight champion of the world and the two-time heavyweight champion of the world should be fighting boxers. And Ngannou is an opportunity that's been created, and each to their own.
Yeah,
you know, rather than me sit on a watch-along with you guys on it, I'd rather go out and do something else.
Listen, Anthony Joshua beats Francis Ngannou. That's the end of Francis Ngannou in boxing. He goes back to doing whatever he's doing.
We'll see.
And then...
We'll see. If he puts on another credible loss performance.
Listen.
But you're making a case for him putting on a credible loss performance.
I am.
If he loses by points, he's going to be credible, and we're going to have it wheeled out again.
I think that there's intrigue in this fight because anything can happen. And you've got to give Ngannou a shot.
All right.
You have to give Ngannou a shot. And
fair enough. Well, I shall miss the opportunity to spend the evening with you.
So you're not going to join us, no?
No.
Very sad.
No, but I'm sure that I won't be missed.
Very disappointed in that.
Right. That's it for episode 63. Don't forget to tune into our next one coming out next week.